Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Fat Muscle Project podcast. That's PHAT, not FAT, if you're new to the show. Figured I'd change it up a little bit so it's not the same intro. I'm John Gorman, one of your hosts today. We've got Lisa Franz in the house. Lisa, first of all, how are you? Where are you? And how's everything going with you?
I'm doing really well, and I am in Bolivia still, so at my current base. But yeah, everything is going well, training going well. I'm excited to speak with our guest today.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome episode. So I say that I know that you're there, but our listeners, you're a world traveler. So like they like to figure out, oh, is she in the States? Like what's
Yep.
going on? But you're there for quite a while, if I remember from our last podcast, right?
Yeah, so that's where I currently have my visa, and I want to have a specific base so that I can leave my stuff somewhere and, while I do all my other travels. But it's a very justified question because in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to be traveling to Europe to see my family and to travel around a little bit and explore some new countries as well.
Yeah,
Nice.
excellent. So are you in the central time zone?
Yes, I am actually. Same time zone as you guys, so that makes it easier.
Bless you.
Having a sneezing fit over here. Okay, well, that's good because you and I are on that. Now, when you go to Europe, that will change. So we'll have to figure our schedule out. But
That's right.
listeners don't care about that. Let's get to the important topic. Let's get to team masters. So Calvin and Brooke, I want to introduce you guys just real quick, and then I'll let you guys explain kind of what you do and a little bit more of who you are. But I've known Calvin and Brooke for a few years now, and they are sponsored fat muscle coaches. And when I first met them, I'll never forget the first Zoom we have. Like I can still see it in my mind's eye, like it was the other day. Um, Calvin had been coaching a little bit and started basically coaching full time, and Brooke was transitioning and starting to coach. And I talked to them about coming on board Fat Muscle because they were already doing all the things that sponsored coaches do. And I want our people listening that are ever interested in being sponsored, these are the two that you really need to take a good look at because they were already doing all the things. They were promoting new ethics. They were promoting Fat Muscle because they believed in the product. So we had a Zoom call, and I remember, I was like, well, yeah, Calvin, you've got a coaching client base. Brooke, you're about to start. I'd actually like to bring you both on because I understand what like a coaching team can do because Leslie and I did that for so long together. And I said, I've got a lot of confidence in you guys. Well, not only did they blow up, they became our most improved coaching team. You guys have won numerous awards at our annual event. Like you guys have just gone nowhere but straight up, right? So we're very proud and honored to have you part of the team from the ground up, basically, like from almost ground zero to the ground up. And now you guys are literally right up there at the top of our coaching team. So want to blow you up a little bit, blow some sunshine over that way, a much deserved sunshine because you guys are awesome. If you would just explain a little bit more about what you guys do as a coaching team.
Yeah, first I'll say I definitely geeked out about coming onto this podcast for sure. I got to put that out there because, where I was coming from and coming up as a coach, there wasn't a lot of information out there, about it. As a matter of fact, when we first got started, I didn't even know online coaching was even a thing. I just started rolling with it. And then I ended up stumbling on the podcast, the Elite Physique University. And right away, I leached onto it. I just resonated with it. And the way that you explain things, you had this way of explaining complicated things, but making them sound so simple. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I think I can do this. I think I can do this. And it brought me in a whole new area of places. And I think that was a big part of why we're even sitting here right now,
Yep.
is that. So being that that was a big part of the growth of what we had to be actually on the podcast, and with Lisa, amazing Lisa too. We got lucky on that one. It's just an amazing thing, and I think this is definitely in our world a highlight as part of
Yeah.
the journey for sure.
And I think it's because of that. That's what we try to kind of pass on because it was so much for us as coaches that we try to help other coaches in the same way and being able to help and do the same things and pay it forward, but as well as with our clients because it was what made us successful. And we just looked at it like, you know what? If we use the same type of technique that helped us to grow, we can also help our clients. So each week when we are working with our clients and we touch base with our clients, we are giving them the information that is specific to them, their plan, so they understand how it works and being able to, you know, an understanding makes them feel more confident that they can do this and they can kind of learn and then know what those tools are and be able to eventually go on their own and have the body that they want and know exactly how to do it.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about age here for a second because you two look phenomenal, but we are now, Lisa, you're young. You look very young. You look great. Now we are older. Okay,
Yeah.
you guys look very good. If you would go ahead and throw your ages out there, and the reason why I bring that up is because we have a lot of people that listen who maybe want to do what you're doing or they want to scale their business, but it's not too late to start a coaching business if this is your passion. So if you would just talk about how old you are and then what you did before you started coaching.
Yeah.
Well, I'm 53, but if I take my reading glasses off, I'll go back to 43. So, but I was before coaching. That's a great question, and a lot of people don't realize this, but I was a metal fabricator by trade from the time I turned 20 for the majority of my life, and that was something I kind of fell into when I ended up dropping out of college my second year and decided, well, I just want to. I could be making money right now, so I'm going to go do that, and ended up just getting good at that just because that's what I was making money at, right? But never once did I feel, and this is what I did for a couple decades, did I feel like that was really where I belonged. I never had that. So what I would do on the side for enjoyment was training people, doing meal plans. I've done that since high school,
Boot camp.
and it was, high school. I was the guy that rallied up all the guys from the different
Hmm.
groups. I had surfers coming in, jocks back in the 80s. They were separated. I'm like, let's just bring them all in, make them all gym bros. And so it's just what I loved, and so it stayed with me my whole life. So I was always doing something on the side, but never, for some reason, never looked at it as like, oh, this could actually be a career, And so, we got married at a fairly young age and started having kids. And so this put me in a position where I didn't have the leniency to start a career over. I didn't have that. I had, daycare, all that stuff. And so it was really just extra income, just training people, And some years back, I started a boot camp. And it was I just needed a place to have my own rules outside of the gym where I didn't have to follow theirs and I could have more control of what was going on.
Yeah.
And as this progressed, we started to kind of make our own little tribe on this.
Mhm.
And I would get kicked out of park after park
Yep.
after park and into places, and they would follow. It was in 3 different counties until we actually ended up in the mall out here,
Mhm.
and just had this following. And I'm telling Brooke every time, and this was the craziest thing is I was working 10-hour days at my job. I was running this shop. I would show up, burns on me, exhausted. I'm training for nationals at this point, running, just burning the candle at both ends. But it was like the second somebody would show up for that boot camp, the first person, it's like the switch went off.
Yep.
And I was there, and it's time I'm on at this point. And that never changed. That was stuck with it the whole time. And so, I understood that this was my outlet. This is what made me happy. So I wanted it to grow. I wanted it to grow. And so I didn't know which direction it was going to end up going. Well, I did know one thing that I didn't want the women doing more than 3 days of this type of training. And so I would tell them, go to the gym, do some regular workouts. So Brooke ended up finding an app. It was Trainerize, from way back when. She said, well, you can actually write their workouts for them. We can put them on here and then I could do their macros. I'm like, oh, cool. So that's all I did with that app for the longest time. And probably for the first 5 years, I didn't use anything else except for macros and workouts. Didn't
Yeah.
understand any of it. But this progressively turned into people asking, and seeing the pictures and asking for me to do it. So I started working with people in different areas and it just started growing and growing. And so I just decided to learn more and more. But this was before I kind of understood like hormones and all that stuff. I was a basic coach, I knew what I knew. And so it was around that time with the podcast that I'm like, okay, this makes sense. And I would see like William Grazion, he's one of them that I saw. He's actually making a living doing this. I'm like, is this possible?
Mhm.
So the vision came in, and right away I'm like, this is it. This was my calling. This is where I belong. And so I never once thought, is this what I should be doing? I never thought about money, anything. I just poured into it. and my poor wife, because that fire got lit. And I'm going to tell you, every time you guys would mention something on the show that I didn't know about, I was researching, I was reading. I would never drive anymore. She would drive. I'd be reading in the car and just detached from everything. But I knew that this is what I needed to do to get to that point. I knew I needed to be where you guys were, where other people were that I saw doing this to create that life, and it was just something that happened just organically. And so finally she's stuck with it and retired me out of my job. And I ended up going full time. And I just out of nowhere that first month, our income with the training, with the coaching doubled. And it wasn't that I changed, but that was my sign to me that, okay, this is what I need to be doing. So when that happened, I told Brooke, I said, okay, I'm going to retire you out of your job now because I need your help. So,
Yep.
she was the one that fixed me when I was broken. She was the one that always made sure that I was able to do what I was doing and do it right. And the thing of it is what we learned through our marriage, and we've known each other since seventh grade, believe it or not, we've been best friends forever. But we always, whatever we did together, we did very well. Whenever we were separate, not so much. So we're like, well, why wouldn't we run our business like that? And so that's what we did. And I ended up retiring her out of teaching or speech therapy, working at the school. And it's just been, I just could have dreamed that we had this life together doing what we actually love to do and meeting the people that we have met and having the experiences. It's just been an amazing thing. And so every day she has to pull me out of the office because I can't get enough of it.
Mhm.
But I hear
Yeah.
two things in that, and I'm sorry, Lisa, I know I'm taking over here. Passion and obsession, those two things with you guys, which a lot of people lack, right? They want everything, but they lack passion and obsession at the same time, and those go hand in hand. So, Brooke, you've been full time now for how many years, and what's that been like for you transitioning over?
Yeah, so full time, I would say about five,
I think you were 4 to 5
four
full
to five
time.
years. I'm the younger woman, so I'm only 52. Um, but
Mhm.
yeah, so I had my master's degree. I was working and had my own private practice, worked in the school system, and COVID hit. And it just all turned to nonsense. So when he was
Yeah.
talking about, hey, I think this might, yep, yep, okay, let's do that. So it was. And then I had my own experience, again, as you know, going through perimenopause, that kind of just shifted my gears, and I had to learn everything there was to know about hormones because I experienced it myself. And I know how lost I was and how scared I was. Everybody kind of blowing off my symptoms and what was happening, that became my focus and my area that I began coaching more of, to be able to help the women that are going through it.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, Lisa, I'm done
I
sabotaging
no,
the
I just wanted to
show
add
here.
to that. In addition to passion and obsession, what I also hear is focus, and I think that's what a lot of people miss. I don't think that there's anything wrong, on the contrary, with like starting with coaching as a side hustle, especially if you lack experience. I think that's great, but at some point comes the point where you do need to go all in and like put all your eggs in a basket, even if it is feels risky, even if you have your doubts, which I'm sure you both probably did. But nonetheless, if you would have never made that move, you wouldn't be where you are now, and your coaching wouldn't be, and you wouldn't have been able to help as many people as you have. So I think that's really, really cool. And I mean, speaking of all that work as well, while you're doing that, um, how are you able to yourself like portray that in your own lifestyle while continuing to be so busy to the point of being dragged out of the office at the end of the day? Because of course you want to be a good role model for your clients and portray that, not just if you're a prep or a competitor, that you can achieve a great physique, but also that you can actually have a healthy and a great physique all year round, essentially.
Well, I'll tell you, I have a little bit of a cheat in this one because I think back to my buddy who became a police officer, and he told me one time, this is back when I was a fabricator, and he said that they pay him to go work out. He actually can go to the gym and he actually gets paid. I'm like, that's the coolest thing ever. I'm like, I need to do that one. And now I told her when we do payroll, I said, I want I want a certain amount for every workout that I do. I want to get
That's
paid because we
awesome.
make the rules. It's our business, and I want to get paid for my workouts. So, but that's not the real reason. But but it is. We do enjoy it. It's been a part of our life for a long time. And I think we've just been through so many facets of it. We were endurance athletes for a while until I blew my knee out, and we just like the challenge, of having something to work towards, and that just always keeps us ignited, and enthusiastic about it. So I think one of the biggest things I've learned over the last probably 10 years is to not really avoid the hard things. You kind of chase after them. So this is why it never discouraged me when I would lose, when I was trying to turn pro. When I would lose, I it brought me a sense of peace for some reason, because it gave me more desire to keep pushing in that direction. And did I know if I was ever going to get it? No, but I was hoping so, because I told everybody on Facebook I was going to, but but so I couldn't let them down. But I loved the chase of it. I loved going after it and trying to hit that. And I almost feared getting to a goal sometimes, because I feel like I would lose that fire. So with that, I just feel that it's just a natural thing to always set it a little bit higher, always have something that you're shooting for. And just in keeping that mindset, it it just keeps our life exciting all the time. It's kind of, I don't know a better way to put it really, but that's what, this lifestyle has done for us. So it's not just about being healthy, but it's about having something to live for, day after day, and having the ability to be able to create that in someone else's life is not just about their health. At the same time, it's about giving them something to live for, to pull them out of the mundane that they deal with from day after day. And who knows what their job's like, are they being talked down to all day? But now they have their time with us each week, where they have somebody that actually believes in them, that's cheering for them, and is showing them they can do something, and making them achieve something more than what they ever thought they could do. So we're pulling that from a true place of where what we're given is coming from us, of what we learned. So we're trying to incorporate that in the coaching. So for us, it's much deeper than just the health aspect, but the mental health as well.
And I think it's also the same thing. The client hears us every week cheering them on for things when they probably don't get that recognition every day, and they don't recognize the big things that they do. Someone's like, yeah, I followed it. Yeah, you followed it. Like, you were on track all week. How many people could say that they set a goal and that they're going to follow through and they're going to do the things that they told themselves that they're going to do? That does, you know, it's worth getting acknowledgement for. It's something that you should be acknowledged for. And, part of that is, I think, why we do have a lot of clients that stay with us for a long time, because it's that aspect of it too. Yes, they know they're getting healthy. Yes, they know that they keep leveling up, but it's also just having that one part of your week every week that you know that you can have somebody there that's listening, that's watching, that's recognizing. So I think it's super helpful. So.
Coaches listening, I want you to remember this as you listen to these two. Success leaves clues. The little things they're saying, they're not trying to tell you how to build a successful business, but they're showing you how to build a successful business, especially with retention. So I just want to throw that in there before we keep going. Just pay real close attention to these answers that they're giving.
Yeah, and I think it just also shows how much you have fallen in love with the whole thing as a progress, like as opposed to just loving the outcome of like, oh, I'm on stage, or the money or whatever else, but like truly you love the lifestyle, as you were saying even before you were this was your full-time job. So I think that's really, really cool. And I would love to know, like, is there anything that you guys do differently or think is worth mentioning when it comes to clients that are like 50 plus type of thing, or just in
Mm.
general, yeah, going through menopause or the menopause transition, perhaps?
Yeah, I'll do the menopause thing, and then you can do the competitor aspect of it, because I think that those are two definitely unique areas. Because with menopause, I think it's just the main thing that I try and show clients, because many of us through the years have dieted and overtrained and done all the things, and it's not uncommon. So being able to reveal to some of these women and understand that the hardest part that they have to do is actually just rest. because many of us, that was the most challenging part of it. So being able to educate women and showing them the new rules, this game is not the same. So showing them how they have to shift and change things and do things differently with regards to eating and training and stress management and things where before they would push harder. So I think it's just being able to give them hope when they keep trying the same things and they keep failing or they keep feeling that they're stuck or they're broken. And it's been, for me, just really amazing when I see these women that are starting to get their bodies back, starting to feel like themselves again, and no longer feel like looking in the mirror and they don't recognize who they are. So for me, that's a different animal than just basic coaching with, younger kids that are able to push and do all the things. But I think more importantly, with some of the guys, especially some of the clients that are reaching out to us, we're getting from everywhere. But some of these clients that are over 50 that are looking to compete, because competition is a different animal. Competition is 100% effort. You can have, just a general transformation that could be like 80% on point and having a little bit of flexibility, but competition prep is very different. So I know Calvin working with some of these competitors that he has transformed. I mean, the most incredible stories of transformations of guys in their 60s and 70s that have never jumped on stage that have just made the most incredible transformations. So what do you think? What do you think is the
Yeah, I don't have any idea how I did that. No, yeah, it's definitely a different breed,
It's
and
an art.
it's become an art. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy working with any ages for sure. The young ones, the big thing when I'm working with them young is to make sure they're doing things right, staying clean. There's a lot of garbage out there that, these kids are doing. So I like that I have that reputation, locally as the coach to go to that,
Those
has
things right.
has certain guidelines with that, and so so I enjoy that aspect of that. But the older ones, once they get past 40, 50, like she said, it's a different thing because their bodies are in a different place, and so what I love the most about this is I just remember thinking, seeing my friends when I was coming up, and we're in our 30s, and they're just putting weight on, and they're just like, well, that's it, we're old now, in our 30s. And I'm like, that's such a depressing place. And I see the mood, they don't laugh as much as they used to. Just everything just seems different, they're grown-ups now. And I'm like, man, is that it? Is that it for life? I'm like, there has to be something better, right? So this to me is an opportunity to kind of bring what would be considered like the fountain of youth in a sense, to people that maybe don't have that, as they get older. So I really kind of embrace the idea of like taking guys, and females, 40 plus, 50 plus, and showing them that they can actually feel and look the way that they did in their 30s, maybe even for some of their
Or
20s
better.
are better, than most do in their 20s now. But doing it in a way that they're healthy. And that's the key thing with when you're dealing with somebody that's older is really being congruent
Meaningful.
in both areas of health. And when a body's healthy, when it's really running, fluid and it's in a good place, it wants to lose body fat. It wants to build muscle. So this is where I feel like when I'm working with older people, they understand it and they embrace that because they want longevity at the same time. And that's where it's a little bit more difficult working with the younger generation because they're just like,
Right now.
just whatever it takes
Just
to
do
get
what it
jacked,
is.
and they're drinking them, whatever, and so it's just a different mentality. So it's very enjoyable to work with someone that kind of gets the whole picture and they're more prone to kind of, the old school way of thinking. They know you got to put the work in. They know you got to do these things and they are able to kind of transition over easier a lot of times, um, but also they're not aware of modern thinking with nutrition. So it's fun to kind of introduce them to this and have them see their body respond in a completely different way. And a good example is, a gentleman that reached out he lives in Australia. He was 72 when he reached out to me. And he was, I guess you would call it skinny fat, and guy, I know he's going to listen to this podcast and he's going to be like, "Why'd you call me?" But so, but he was eating about 1,900 calories, about 6'3", and skinny arms, and he's holding his belly, kind of looked like insulin resistance, right? Low carbs, and he went to his first bodybuilding show, at this point, and so I'm like, okay, well, let's get started. So I found the holes, we started reversing, and his body just starts transforming. And so I ended up reversing him up to about 2,850 calories. And he was good to go. There was no cardio. There was
Oh my gosh.
none of it. It was just his body responded so well. He leaned out, was so lean. And the association that he competed with, the Masters was 40 plus, and that was it.
Oh,
In
wow.
this
And
natural
natural.
organization. Yeah, down there. It was a natural one. And so he was getting top five in every show and actually placing better as the year progressed and went on a 10-day cruise. 10-day cruise, came back, competed a week later, and won second place in that show. He did 4 shows that year. And it's like I feel like the mentality at that age is just different. They do it, they put in the work, they do the things that needs to be done, and they also don't blow it over stupid things, where that's a little bit of a different thing. If this was somebody in the 20 to 30 range, they would not have came back off that cruise the same, right?
Yep.
So it's a little bit different to work with that. So what's interesting with him is he just crushed it that year, and had since had shoulder surgery and hernia surgery. And now we're in prep to have him come back at 74. I think he is right now, 74 years old. He's on his comeback trail, and he's going to get up and do it again. And he can't use TRT. There's no testosterone therapy, nothing.
And no supplements.
I can't even get fat muscle supplements to him because he's down there,
Yeah.
And so I had to do it all entirely through food.
Yeah.
So to me, I love that. I love everything about that. I love the challenge of it. I love the ability to be able to take somebody's life and possibly extend years into it, but to also make them feel young again.
Yep.
It's just the gratitude that comes back from that is just something you can't buy, so I enjoy it quite a bit, so it is a different ball game, but I would say definitely more difficult than
Definitely more
doing
challenging.
working with somebody younger. You do have to understand how to read bodies and biofeedback. You're not following the normal rules, and they've been through so much that so many different things can be going on in their body that it's not going to follow a certain set of rules. You have to pay attention to the stress and all the different things and find what works for them. But when you find that, you can still do just as much with somebody that's in that age bracket as you can younger.
Yeah.
You just have to give them what their body needs. That's it.
If I can throw something in here real quick, when I first got with you guys and said I'd like to bring you both on, it's because I see the things you guys were talking about that you're talking about now. I saw that, but what I didn't see back then is this. Calvin, you can talk about so many things from so many different angles, right? From competition prep to being in your 50s to have coached a lot of people. The nice extra part of that, not extra, but the same 1-to-1 ratio here is now you've got Brooke, who has competed, been on stage, has experienced menopause, like all the things, right? So now she can also have that conversation much differently than you can, Calvin, even though I'm sure you've got plenty of female clients. Brooke is the other side of this to where maybe a female doesn't want to talk to you about menopause because she's like, dude, you're 52, 53 and jacked. What do you know about menopause? Well, Brooke knows all of it because she's been through it all and she's been through the hardest dieting possible. So I bring all that up to say, for people out there listening, if you can partner up and have this, especially with a spouse or a loved one, you really check all the boxes. Brooke, one quick question for you. Would you say the hardest thing to help women in their 50s and menopause and clients like that is the hardest part for you to get them to scale back their training and not push? Would you say, like in the communication, that's been the hardest over things like following the diet, doing the workouts, like
Yep.
getting them pulled back?
Everyone can follow the diets. Everyone can push really hard, but it's dialing things back, resting, walking, chilling out, going to bed early, not thinking of your to-do list at night. It's all of those things that is the most challenging, especially because it's most of us type A's that when going through menopause, we are the ones that suffered the most.
It's that Jane Fonda era. They're all like, let's just pound it. Let's just aerobicize the crap out of it.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
the good thing is I see this actually trickling down because Lisa, I see you actually practice this. And if people will follow you, look at your physique and your lifestyle, you do a lot of things to where relaxation is very, very huge. You've got a good relationship with food. You're doing all these things. So I'm thinking, Lisa, by the time you're in your 50s, you're not going to be this generation that we're talking about, right, Brooke? The
Yeah.
Jane Fonda generation, because I think it's trickling down. I think it's making a difference. Lisa, would you agree with that? Do you feel like your generation is way more educated on this now?
I think the education piece is definitely more prevalent, but I will say that nonetheless, those parts are still the hardest. Like I do meditate daily, I do take my rest days and so on, but that is so much harder for me than going to the gym, than pushing hard, which is more my natural inclination. So nonetheless, it is something I had to and still have to cultivate on a daily basis, essentially. But yeah, I think I'm very thankful that we have more information about the importance of rest and that less food is not always better, that more exercise is not always better. So I think that's a really good point that you brought up there. And I wanted to add to something that you said, Calvin, because it resonated so much with me, with that whole thinking of like, it's just normal to get fat as you age. It's just normal to lose all your muscle mass. And that's something that honestly is like my biggest passion when it comes to coaching, breaking that whole belief, because I too, like even in my as a teenager or in my early 20s, I believed like it is normal that you just like things deteriorate as you age. And yes, of course, our bodies are not, or our cells are not going to be the same at 70 as they are when we're 30 or 40. But truly, to your point, we have so many examples of people that reach their best physiques in their 50s, in their 60s, and beyond. And especially if you haven't done any resistance training, you can build quite a bit of muscle at any age. There's studies even demonstrating when you're 80, something as simple as like air squats, essentially, or sitting down on a chair and getting back up and so on. You build muscle with the right protein and like continuing to use your muscle. So I think it's just really important that we as in like coaches, all the coaches out there, spread that message of like, no, you don't have to live in an assisted living facility when you're
Right.
70 or 80 or whatever. You don't have to depend on others. You can be that quote unquote outlier. Unfortunately, it's just the norm these days that we are diabetic, that we are overweight and all these things. So yeah, I love what you said there, and that just truly brings life to you when it comes to the coaching.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I tell you, beast mode is got a whole different concept when you push rest so much. Rest in beast mode state. It's one of the hardest things to get people to do. They're like, I will do anything. That consultation call, they tell you a bunch of stuff.
Yep.
They're gonna tell you what you want to hear, and then you go into it and you're like, okay, well, I need you to take a week off from training. Oh no, I can't do that though.
Yep.
I can't do
And
that.
sleep to go to John's favorite point, and sleep more. And they're like, what?
Yes.
Rest and
Enough.
sleep? That's my homework?
Yes.
No.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
but
But I
definitely
mean,
showing women. Yeah.
I
Sorry.
was just going to say, speaking of rest and sleep, you guys being very successful business owners, doing your own training, having stressful lives, I am curious to hear how you are maintaining your mental sanity and also adrenal health throughout all of this.
Yes. He has a
uh,
bedtime. That's
I,
what we do.
I
I
will.
tell him,
I'll say before she even gets going, I'll say probably one of the best things because for the first couple of years we sat in this office that we're in right now, and we were back to back doing our check-ins back to back. And well, I was thinking, if my goal is really ultimately longevity, this is not going to work because I finally put an office in the other room. But it's we have to draw a little bit of boundaries in a sense that we work together, but not to be so much. And so having a little bit of space, but like outside of work, we still actually talk about a lot of work because there's so many people that are involved with it that it does interest us. It's almost like a big family in a sense, and we we do enjoy talking about it. Somebody has wins, like I was saying, it's these things that keep life exciting, and so their wins really affect us a lot more than they actually realize,
Yeah. Yeah.
because when we work on things, we do it together. So when somebody has that big drop or they have that next thing, or we crack the nut on this person and figured out what the heck was causing all the problems, that's us celebrating, so we have that reason. It gives us reason all the time, and
The same thing, we go on
it's,
walks outside. So that's our morning walk that we do and our evening walk that we do. We're talking
yeah.
about our day. I can bring things up, he's bringing things up, but we definitely take what we do. It doesn't seem like work because we do enjoy what we do. But I also feel that there is part of us that does need to get out and kind of do things. So we do make an effort to spend time with our kids, and go out with the boys and spend time with them. We also make, time to be able to go do things outside, whether it's like going to a show, going to a movie, doing things like that, because it is an important part to be able to have some things outside of what we do. But I don't think it's like a regular, like people are like having boundaries, but
It is an interesting thing when we go out there with friends. I don't know if you guys had the same thing, but do you feel like they always just, you end up being the topic, about nutrition, and then
hey,
they're
this is
like,
what I'm doing. What have
they're
you been
eating
doing
in
it
front
for?
of you, and then they start to justify what they're eating. I'm like, listen, it's cool. It's cool. Listen, I got one rule here. My wife told me I'm not allowed to talk about menopause.
Our
I'm not
hormones.
allowed to talk about insulin resistance. As
Yeah.
long as I do those things, you guys do what you want. We're cool, So
It
I,
definitely
I
is.
think there's something to be said about doing what you guys love together as a couple, where, I mean, I know like early on, John, like I didn't have that to share with someone, right? And it just made it tough when someone has a completely different lifestyle. And I'm so passionate. I want to talk about, hey, I just learned this or that, and the other person doesn't. But then they've got some other job over there. I really don't care about that job. And that sounds horrible, but you can't help it, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not your passion. And people try and make that work. And I see a lot of people split. And listen, I am not going to turn this into a relationship podcast because I'm not qualified to talk about any of that. I'm just saying what you guys have, I wish a lot of people could experience because I've experienced that. And it's really awesome when you do that stuff together. One of you said, and I can't remember who it was, you guys have always been better when you're doing your things together versus having, other jobs and other things like that. Man, if people can experience what you guys are doing right now, it's so good. It's so good. If not, it kind of becomes lonely when you're this passionate about physique enhancement and coaching and you don't have someone else. And that's why people seek out communities. That's why people are listening to this podcast because you're just so hungry. Lisa, I know you can speak to that because you love conferences and meeting other people. And like, I'm the same way. I go travel all the time because I need that, right? Because you're not getting it somewhere else. So, um, do you guys agree though that this is so much better because you have this together versus apart?
yes, 100%, 100%. I mean, if there was anything I could say for people coming up, is it's just like anything else, you got to build into it and you have to give it time and you have to learn to love together, to love certain things. And if a person's in alignment with you, they should be making you better. And if that person's not making you better, that's not the right person, in my opinion. So it's that's the thing, but you have to give it time. And like I said, we've known each other since seventh grade. She's seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. So there's really nothing I can hide, with that. But even with that, we still crave the same thing to go to the events. Most of the time, we're just going to see people. We
Yep.
just want to be around. Like when we go to the Fat Muscle event, we're excited to see the people. That's what it is because it's like-minded people that we know we're going to learn things from that that are just as passionate as us. I mean, your passion shows through the things your business is. That's your love language, in a sense. And I know it sounds weird coming from a guy, take it as a grain of salt, but that's your thing because that shows a passion. You're not chasing the money per se. You're chasing the things that make you feel good. And that is creating the empire that you're building right now. That all comes from that same place, but
Yeah.
it's the same as what drives us. It isn't the money. The money comes with it. That's one thing I learned. I wish I'd known this when I was younger. I would have started this years ago. But money is what kept me away from because I thought I wasn't going to be able to pay for the family if I did this. When I let go of that and said, hey, do what you love, that made the most sense to me. And it was an epiphany because there was a time when things were really hard with us, when I was working that job and I was put in a position where I was getting laid off. And so we were in that place where I had to call her to ask her if I could use a credit card and all that. And constantly going through my head, I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I have to find something that's going to pay. And it was just constant. And then I remember Dawson one night said he wanted to go to Disney World. That's my youngest one. And when he said this, that's when it hit home. I'm like, it's only 2.5 hours away. We don't have the money to take him there. And he
Yeah.
kept asking until I told him I would. And then I went to bed that night thinking, how am I going to pay for this? That's $1,000 weekend. And I was thinking all night, what am I going to do? What business? It was probably 3, 4 in the morning. I had the epiphany. It was just do what you love, And that next morning, this was some years back when I actually finally got certified as a trainer because I woke up that morning and Brooke said, hey, there's a special on the computer to get
Groupon.
certified. It's like a Groupon to get certified as a trainer. And I'm like, there it is.
Yeah.
I knew from that very moment, anything that's health, fitness related, that's where I go. I don't ask questions. I just say yes, yes, yes. That was the best thing I could have ever done. And I detached myself from if there's going to be money or if there's not, just do what you love. And whether it's this for somebody else, whatever it is, people need to hear that. And that's when life starts. I tell everybody my life started when I was 40. That's when I started living, And so that was one of the biggest lessons I had. And so I'm glad I did because here we are, and we're
People think they're too late. Like I'm too late. And you guys really, like you just said, like you start living in your 40s, right? And now you guys are early 50s. And I've got a young guy on the other side of this computer over here. You guys can't see him, but he's 17. He's over there cutting out logos, about to make some shirts for me. But their generation feels like they're seniors in high school and they got to hurry. They're late, like they're going to miss the boat. It's like, holy hell, like I need to start till I was 30. Like people listening, the important thing is just start, right? Whether
Yeah.
you're 50, I know people that have started in their 50s coaching full time,
Mhm.
change their physique. And listen, you've got, hopefully 30 years. That's a long time. That's a long time. So anyway, I'll stop hijacking. I just want to point that out. Like, it's not too late to start. Like you're not behind. Just start.
Yeah,
That's it.
sure.
Life starts when you start going in that direction. That's it.
Yeah.
What a wonderful message. Thank you so much. And I think it's a perfect point to kind of like round it off. Thank you both for coming on. It's been a true pleasure. And yeah, John, I don't know if you have any other questions for the two of them.
I've got one quick question. It's not on the show notes here, so I'm gonna hit you guys with something different, but it's a simple one. What's next for you guys? Is there a goal for each one of you? Or as a team, it doesn't matter. What's your next thing? Because Calvin and Brooke, as you guys talked about, you like to, you don't want to just hit a goal and then stay there because then where's the drive and motivation? I'm the same way with everything in life to a fault. Like once I hit something, I'm like, all right, that's cool, but what's next? Like everybody's celebrating. I'm like, no, 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 I'm already thinking about next. So what's next for you guys, for either one of you or as a team?
Well, for me, I had my pro debut this year at the Florida Pro. That's what I'm shooting for, September 5th. So that'd be my first time on. And you know, Cliff Wilson, of
Mhm.
course,
Yeah.
amazing coach, is the one that coached me through nationals and got me the pro card. Uh, Incredible coach, and I love what he did. And so on the off season, I had been competing a lot, the last 5 years, and I never really gave myself much of a break. So I found that I had to fix my own adrenals. So all the things that like we were talking about, the rest and all that stuff, I wasn't doing it like I should. So here I am having to fix that. So now on the off season, I was working on it and I'm almost there right now, but I didn't want to put that on Cliff to go into this show. So I decided this would be fine to kind of go into my first pro show and just go old school like I used to before I got a coach and coach myself. So I was kind of excited about that. So I just wanted the challenge of it just to kind of do it. I don't really recommend that for anybody that really wants to go into their pro show because everybody's got a certain level of dysmorphia, body dysmorphia when they see themselves. And that's one of the big reasons why I wanted to coach in the first place. But but I think this one's more for me. I just want to roll into it. So I did kind of soft start into the prep and got that going and see if I have get things moving okay with it. And who knows, I may call Cliff last minute and say, "Hey, Cliff, I need you to get me out of this ditch because I got to get on stage soon." But that's new for me to go back to that. And then the other thing too is was something that we kind of been dabbling with and talking with some production companies about is maybe putting together something a show, you know, that can kind of encompass, the lifestyle, the healthy lifestyle, and and coaching and stuff like that. So that's been in the talks.
Yeah. And we're also
And
working.
Will,
Yep.
I'm sorry, I was going to say real quick. Calvin, the obviously we know as coaches, the goal, if you're a coach too, if you do work with a coach, is at some point, like you're taking all the things you learn from other people that you've worked with over the years, and then you apply it yourself and you're able to coach yourself, right? Even though it's extremely hard because you have that weird lens that you look at yourself through,
Yep.
where another coach like Cliff can look at you and be very, very cut and dry and to the point. I was going to say this a lot of the times, like myself, Jason Theobald, we prepped each other as well. But then we got to the point where it's like, we became good friends. We used each other as a second set of eyes. Hey man, what do you think about this? How do you think I'm looking? Like I'm not liking what I look. And I could just cut through it and be like, no, dude, like here's where you're sitting. And Jason's the same way. You've got a lot of good people around you. And you can reach out and hit anybody up just for a second set of eyes to help get you through so you can coach yourself. So that's something, a tactic that we've all used, once we build this circle, and which you're part of that circle. So that's always there if you need it.
And it's
Yeah.
the same thing that, there's also that area of prep that you have your husband coach you for a period of time. And then you say, no, 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 no. We think we need John. And then John comes in and saves
I
the
didn't.
day.
I'm going to tell you, coaching your wife when she weighs 100 pounds and when you got to do those cuts, oh boy, you want to talk about trying to keep a relationship strong. I learned, and
That's where we decided to pivot. And that's
yeah,
where we reached out to John.
she was like, "Yeah, we're gonna go into it again." I'm like, Brooke, we need to have a talk. Um, you know, and I tell you what, John, what you did with her was freaking phenomenal. It really was because I know where her gut health was at the time. We didn't know that until after and all the
Yeah.
things that she was going through. So this was not just dealing with menopause. This was dealing with the pre-existing gut issue. I don't think a lot of people realize when you develop a gut issue, how long it will stay with you. It can be from decades ago. And so we had no idea because we never ran a GI map or anything.
Yeah. And he
And
would tell me to go to sleep. I'm like, that 107, if I wake up again at that number, he's like, don't worry, don't worry. Just do this. You're fine. You're fine. And sure enough.
I was just sitting over there like eating my popcorn, watching Johnny Preston. It's like, all right, what's he gonna do now? What's he gonna do? Like, it's,
Well, full transparency here. Brooke, people like Brooke make my job easy, right? Because they follow just like you said, you're
yeah,
70 something year old, right? Like you guys have that mentality. You just execute, you do the things. Like if you need sleep, I know she's going to get that sleep, right? So like people like that make coaches like me look really good. What's next for you, Brooke? You have any goals or anything that you're wanting to do?
Yeah, so we have a couple things in the works. So I actually have a program that I'm putting together for menopause, and I'm introducing it now and having it free just to kind of give people resources and things like that. So that's coming up next month. And then our bigger picture, we are working with Taylor, as per referred by John, who's been helping us with our business and has done an incredible job and really just helping us to see the bigger vision. And we have a team of coaches now with us, and the majority of them, besides my son and his sister, have been clients, and our team just grew organically.
Yeah.
People that had incredible transformations that just want to pay it forward. So we have a few of them that are looking to do this full time. So we are starting to do more to be able to create this team, and each of us being able to be full time in this and being able to do what we love So that is kind of next in the works and working in that direction and marketing. So we're excited
That's
about
awesome. The menopause content, you said it's free, right?
that. Yep. Yep.
Get that to us. We'll help spread that and give you guys some eyeballs, but give people good
Yeah.
context. At the end of the day, that's what it is. Like, how many people can we help? So, yeah, I'd love to, because I know you guys know your stuff, especially when it comes to that.
It's a
So
great program.
maybe this is kind of a plug on the podcast. Stay tuned, and when that comes out, maybe we jump on the show and we do a menopause Q&A or something.
Awesome.
Brooke, if you want to jump on, yeah, I think that'd be great.
Awesome. That would be great.
Yeah, so definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been a fun episode. You guys will obviously be back on. I'd like to do some Q&As over different topics, and like I said, maybe a menopause Q&A. Lisa, do you have anything else? Are we?
No, this was awesome. I loved getting to know your guys' background story a little bit more, and I'm excited for the menopause guide and to have you on again at some point in the future.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
If
definitely.
if you're listening, you can find all Calvin and Brooks contact information. It's in the show notes. However you want to contact them, we'll have all that there, so you guys can stop and click on that now. I haven't asked for you guys to leave a review in a long time. We don't run ads. We don't do any of that. It's not about making money. It's just about putting out good content. So if you would just hit pause, leave us a quick review. If it's 5 stars, great. Just leave us an honest review. It takes 2 seconds. Do that real quick for us. And then finally, any topics, guests, anything that you want to hear on the show, feedback you want to give us, you can see my email and Lisa's email in the show notes. We appreciate you. So this podcast has been fun. We will be back. Lisa, what do we have coming up? Do you have that? I know it's kind of last second.
We
Do
have
know what's coming up next?
another guest coming up, but I'm blanking who it is at the moment. So yeah, next episode is going to be a guest episode also.
Yep, I know we've got some stuff in the works to try and have Dr. Bill Campbell on and some other names like that. We're waiting to hear back from them. So just stay tuned. We're dropping these every 2 weeks. From myself, Team Masters, and Lisa, we're out of here. See you guys.